You're in an argument, not the explosive kind, but the quiet kind, where tension simmers under every word. She throws a little jab, a test, something designed to poke your ego, see if it flinches. And you don't. You don't snap. You don't roll your eyes. You don't retreat into silence or puff up your chest like a middle schooler in a grown man's body. You stay there, present, still, grounded. That's real masculinity. And it's not the kind that shouts from the rooftops or flexes in the mirror. It's not the kind that needs to be loud, dominant, or emotionally constipated. It's not the version sold by insecure influencers who think alpha is a volume setting. Real masculinity doesn't need to prove anything because it's too busy being something. Philosophers still debate the nature of masculinity in modern society. Is it evolving, eroding, misunderstood? But when you ask a woman what makes her feel safe, respected, and drawn in, it's always the same traits: presence, integrity, boundaries, clarity. You don't have to act like a caveman, but you do have to have a spine. And here's the thing: she will test it. Not to break you, but to feel you. Not because she's cruel, but because she needs to know if what you say you are is what you actually are. A quirky observation: a lot of men think setting boundaries is controlling. So they become overly accommodating, thinking it'll make her feel cared for. What it actually does, it makes her question if there's anything inside you worth respecting. Being masculine doesn't mean being aggressive. It means being clear. Clear in what you will and won't tolerate. Clear in what matters to you. Clear in how you move, how you lead, how you love. Let me give you a real-world reference: Jason Momoa. Yeah, he looks like a Norse god, but it's not the muscles that make people admire him. It's the way he carries himself. The groundedness, the joy, the protectiveness, the centered fire. Masculinity with edges, but also with depth. You want to embody that kind of energy? Start saying no without apologizing. Start taking responsibility without waiting for credit. Start showing up even when it's inconvenient. Start doing hard things quietly, consistently, without needing praise. Because women don't need you to dominate, but they do need to feel that you're rooted, that you're not going to collapse when challenged, that your values don't evaporate under pressure, that your decisions aren't based on fear, lust, or mood swings. And no, this doesn't mean you can't be soft, but softness is most powerful when it rests on a foundation of strength. Kindness is most attractive when it comes from a man who can be firm, but chooses not to unless he must. That's polarity, that's power. Authentic masculinity is quiet, still, precise. It doesn't posture, it doesn't perform. It holds space, values, composure, people. So when she questions, you don't argue. When she pulls away, don't chase. When she storms, don't mirror her weather, become her shelter. Because once she realizes your masculinity isn't fragile, she'll start letting hers soften. And that's when something beautiful happens. Not dominance, not submission, but deep magnetic balance. It's 5:30 a.m. No one's watching, no one's clapping, no one's asking. But you get up anyway. You tie your shoes, you hit the gym, you journal, you read, you reflect. Not for applause, not for Instagram, just because that's who you've decided to be. That's discipline. And it is the final invisible trait that makes you unforgettable. Discipline isn't sexy, at least not on the surface. It's quiet, repetitive, thankless. But the result? The result is the man who doesn't unravel. The man whose energy is different. The man who walks into a room and feels like he knows something the others don't. Philosophers still debate whether discipline is born or built, but every high-performing man will tell you the same thing: it's built in silence, brick by brick, when no one is looking, and especially when quitting feels easier. Women may be drawn to charm, but they stay for consistency. They stay for the man who does what he says, not once, but every day. The man who's trained his body, his mind, his spirit like a temple, not just for attraction, but for alignment. Here's a real-world example: Jocko Willink, retired Navy SEAL, author, leader. Alarm set for 4:30 every morning. His entire brand is about discipline, not as punishment, but as freedom. You see it in the way he speaks, moves, breathes. No chaos, just control. Now ask yourself, when's the last time your own habits inspired someone? Here's a quirky observation: the guys who constantly look for hacks in dating are often the same ones who've skipped the basics in themselves. No inner structure, no self-respect, no stillness. They want results without roots. But women, they feel the difference immediately. Discipline is your foundation. It shows in the way you carry yourself, the way you sit in silence, the way you don't grab for attention, the way you choose what to ignore. And that kind of man, he's rare, and the rare man, is irresistible. This is the man who doesn't need to lie to impress, doesn't need to over explain, doesn't panic when she's distant, doesn't spiral when he's rejected, because he's not defined by her response, he's defined by his routine. You want to master a woman's mind, first master your own. Get up early even when you don't feel like it. Finish what you start, hold your boundaries, keep your word, especially when no one else will know you broke it. Because when you can look in the mirror and trust yourself, she will too. Your discipline becomes her security. The man who leads himself is the man she follows without hesitation. The man who is rooted in something deeper than dopamine. A man who lives by code, not craving. Because in the end, all the traits presence, emotional control, confidence, mystery, purpose, they all sit on this foundation, the inner discipline to be who you say you are. And when you build that, you become unforgettable. So here you are, the man who listened, who paused, who stayed with this message until the very last word. That says something. Because in a world of quick hits and endless distractions, most people don't finish what they start. But you did. You stayed, you received. And maybe somewhere deep inside, you felt something shift. Let it. Let it become more than inspiration. Let it become a standard. There's a quiet kind of power in walking through life unshaken, in mastering your breath, your reactions, your focus, in knowing you can be soft without being weak, in being a storm when needed and a shelter when not. Remember this, she doesn't fall for the man who tries to control her. She falls for the man who's already mastered himself, the one who protects peace more than ego, the one who lives with quiet intensity, the one whose presence feels like gravity, not noise. So take this with you. Every morning you rise with discipline, she'll feel it, even if she hasn't met you yet. Every time you hold space instead of snapping, she'll feel it even if she's still a stranger. And one day when she finally walks into your world, she'll recognize that energy and know it's rare. You don't need to chase, you need to become. Because the man who is aligned doesn't demand attention. He attracts it effortlessly. End of script. Have a beautiful day. Hey everyone, today we're standing still in a noisy world, not frozen, not afraid, just still. You're in a crowded room. The kind where conversations overlap, music leaks from invisible speakers, and everyone's trying to be seen. But in the corner, there's one man who hasn't said a word. He isn't scrolling, isn't posturing. He's just there fully. And somehow, without raising his voice or flashing his watch, he commands attention. And if you think you can control how others feel about you, then maybe that's exactly what you haven't let go of yet. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some soft background noise. And let's begin today's journey together. You walk into the cafe not to impress, not to perform, but just to get your coffee. And still someone glances up from their laptop. Another shifts in their seat. There's no spotlight, no grand entrance, just you. Calm, unbothered, present. That's what they feel. It's not your haircut or your jawline. It's your stillness. The fact that you don't flinch, you don't rush, you don't need to scan the room for approval. You own your place in it. Presence isn't about being the loudest guy in the room. It's about being the most grounded. Think of Morgan Freeman in every movie, never yelling, but always in control. That's presence. Philosophers still debate whether charisma is something you're born with or something you cultivate. But in the real world, where people react to energy faster than logic, presence is built. Quietly, over time, through your habits, through how you show up when no one's watching. You don't need to perform to be remembered. You need to feel real. There's a weird trick your nervous system plays on you. It tells you that being still is unsafe. That if you're not filling space with movement or words, people will forget you. But the truth, the opposite happens. Stillness sharpens your presence like a blade. Think of the last time someone stared straight into your eyes and didn't break it. No smirk, no squirming, just clear, steady gaze. You remember that right now. Imagine being that person, the one who doesn't fear the silence, the one who holds space just by existing in it. There's this guy at your gym doesn't talk much, just shows up, trains hard, leaves. You've probably imagined what his story is. That's presence. He didn't say a thing, but now you're narrating his life in your head. Presence makes people wonder. Now I'm not telling you to become a mute monk in every room, but maybe talk a little less. Listen a little longer. Pause before you answer. Walk a little slower. Let your movements look like they have weight, because they do. Funny thing, the guys who always need to crack a joke, dominate a conversation, or flex their knowledge, they're often the ones afraid of being ignored. But you, when you're comfortable in silence, you become unforgettable. Presence isn't a performance, it's a vibe. It's crocodile scented sunscreen, strange silent, and strangely magnetic. People remember it even if they can't quite explain why. And yes, there's discipline behind that vibe. You build presence by letting go of the need to prove anything. You stop explaining yourself all the time. You let your breath lead instead of your anxiety. You sit with your discomfort instead of outrunning it. You want to be irresistible, don't try to impress her. Make her feel safe and intrigued in your stillness. Because when you walk through this world grounded, you become the rarest kind of man, the one who doesn't need attention to feel whole, and still somehow gets it. You're sitting across from her. She's upset, not angry at you, just overwhelmed. Her voice cracks, her energy spikes. She starts saying things that don't quite make sense. She wants to be heard, not solved. And your chest tightens because every part of you wants to react to fix it, defend, withdraw. But instead, you breathe one deep breath. You don't speak. You don't flinch. You hold the moment like a heavy glass that shouldn't be dropped. That's power, real grown man power. And here's the hard truth: if you don't master your emotions, someone else will. In relationships, especially with women, that someone will usually be her, not because she's manipulative, but because you gave her the keys by default. Philosophers still debate whether emotions are tools or traps. But emotionally immature men don't debate, they just explode, or shut down, or spiral. And women feel it immediately. You ever seen a guy send 8 texts back to back after she stops replying? That's not romance, that's panic with a digital signal. And it smells desperate. Here's what no one tells you: she's not testing you to play games. She's testing to feel safe. She's looking for a man who won't get swept up in her storm because she already lives in it. She doesn't need you to mirror her chaos. She needs you to anchor it. Emotional self control doesn't mean you suppress everything, it means you filter wisely. You feel anger, but don't yell. You feel attraction, but don't obsess. You feel rejection, but don't collapse. You are allowed to feel everything, but not everything gets a reaction. Think of it like training a wild dog. Your emotions aren't bad, they're just untrained. And until you teach them to sit, stay, and obey, they'll run your relationships into the ground. There's a meme that says women want men who act like Navy SEALs in emotional combat. And it's half true. Not because they want robots, but because they want reliability. There's something unexplainably magnetic about a man who remains calm when she's spiraling. She doesn't even know why it turns her on, but it does. Not because he's dismissing her feelings, but because he's not adding gasoline to the fire. Let me give you a modern reference. Ever watch Peaky Blinders? Tommy Shelby doesn't scream, doesn't panic, doesn't whine. He lights a cigarette, stares into space, and makes you feel like he's already 10 steps ahead. Women watch that and go, why is this terrifying man so calming? It's because emotional self control translates into leadership, and leadership is sexy. Here's a quirky observation: men who overreact to minor things often do so because they've never had a space to process the big things. They never learned how to cry with purpose, they just learned how to yell. Your edge isn't in how quickly you respond, it's in how deliberately you choose not to. You don't need to win the moment, you need to master it. Think about the last time you got ghosted or ignored. Did you sit still? Or did you spiral into strategies? Text games, timeline analysis. Emotional self control means you don't chase the dopamine drop of a reply. You protect your dignity like a sacred thing because it is. And here's the ironic twist: the moment you stop trying to control her behavior, you begin to influence her emotions. When she can't shake your calm, she starts craving your presence. Not because you made her feel guilty, but because you made her feel safe. The safest man in the room isn't the one who says, I got you. It's the one who shows it by not falling apart when she does. So, yes, be emotional, feel deeply, but channel that into strength, not instability. Speak softly, especially when you want to shout. Sit with yourself, especially when you want to run. Because when you stop reacting to everything, she starts feeling everything. You're at a dinner party. Someone asks what you do. You answer calmly without needing to prove anything. No big pitch, no backstory monologue, no, well, actually, just facts. And then you go back to eating. You don't need to sell yourself, and that makes you magnetic. Confidence that shouts is insecurity in costume. But confidence that whispers, that lingers in your posture, your timing, your silence, that's the kind that makes her lean in because it doesn't ask to be noticed. It just is. And trust me, she notices. Quiet confidence isn't about pretending to have all the answers. It's about not being rattled when you don't, You say, I'm not sure, with the same tone you'd use to say, I got this. That steadiness. That's what earns her trust. Philosophers still debate the line between humility and self assuredness. But in real life, you know it when you see it. It's in the guy who doesn't interrupt, who doesn't fill the silence with fluff, who doesn't start every sentence with, let me tell you something. It's in the man who shows up late not because he's disrespectful, but because he got caught up building something. And when he arrives, he owns the room without needing to announce himself. His presence hums, not screams. You've probably seen this before at the bar, at work, at the gym. That one guy who isn't the tallest, the richest, or the loudest, and yet somehow he gets all the attention. Not because he's trying, but because he is. Here's a quirky observation: the louder someone is about their accomplishments, the more likely it is they're still trying to believe it themselves. It's like someone holding up a cool guy sign. If you really were one, you wouldn't need the sign. Quiet confidence is sexy because it doesn't depend on external validation. It's rooted in knowing who you are, not hoping someone else will confirm it. Let's bring in a real world reference: Keanu Reeves. He doesn't say much in interviews, doesn't dominate the screen with words, but people, especially women, talk about him like he's some mythical figure. Why? Because he moves like a man who isn't performing. That's the power of being self contained. When you walk into a room, you don't scan for her gaze, you anchor into your own. When you speak, your pace says, I trust what I'm about to say, not please, like this. And when she tests you, because she will, you don't rush to explain yourself. You let her feel the weight of your stillness. Confidence without ego is like black coffee, strong, simple, no sugar needed. And when you stop trying to prove your worth, she starts trying to understand it. That mystery, that certainty, that groundedness, it's irresistible. Because most men perform, few embody. Don't rush to text back. Don't explain your whole backstory in one sitting. Let your actions speak slowly and clearly, not to create distance, but to create depth. You want her to remember you? Don't give her the whole show. Just give her a moment that lingers, a pause in the conversation, a glance that holds weight, a silence that says, I'm not in a hurry for you to figure me out. Because the man who moves with quiet confidence doesn't just walk into her life, he walks into her mind and stays there. She's talking not about work or the weather, but something deeper, something jagged. And you don't interrupt. You don't steer the conversation back to you. You don't leap in with a five-step solution. You just sit there listening, not like it's a task, like it's sacred. That's when she starts to trust you. Real listening, the kind that softens her voice and opens her body, isn't passive. It's presence in its purest form. It says, I hear you, and I'm not here to fix you. It's the opposite of most male instincts, which are trained from childhood to solve, fix, advise, improve. But she doesn't need a mechanic, she needs a witness. Philosophers still debate whether love is more about giving or understanding. But every woman will tell you this: if she doesn't feel seen, she won't feel safe. And if she doesn't feel safe, she won't stay. You ever watch two people in a cafe? She's leaning forward, talking with her hands, eyes wide, voice alive. And he's half scrolling, half smiling, nodding like a bobblehead. She stops. Her energy drops. She checks her phone. The moment's over because she just realized she's alone in the conversation. You don't want to be that guy. You want to be the man who can sit in the middle of her emotions without shrinking, solving, or checking out. You want to listen with your eyes, with your stillness, with the way you pause before responding, like her words deserve space. Here's a quirky observation: most men think they're listening when they're actually reloading. They're waiting for a gap in the dialogue to insert their opinion, not to connect, but to control. And women feel that like a cold draft sneaking in under the door. Deep listening is an emotional art. It's how you say you matter without saying a word. It's when she says, I don't know what's wrong, and instead of asking a checklist of follow-up questions, you just reply, I'm here. That moment. That's when her shoulders drop. That's when the walls start to come down. Let's drop a real-world example: Fred Rogers. Yep, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Watch how he listened. Slowly, without filling every silence. He gave every child his full, uninterrupted attention, and in doing so, made them feel like they mattered. Now imagine bringing that same energy to your relationship. That same calm, curious focus. She'll feel it, and she'll never forget it. Because being heard, really heard, is rarer than being complimented, kissed, or pursued. There's this unspoken craving in every woman's heart to be understood without being fixed, to be allowed to have feelings without a lecture, to be accepted in her mess without you making it about your own discomfort. And here's the punchline: the more you listen, the more she opens. Emotionally, physically, spiritually. Because the safer she feels in your silence, the more freely she'll share what words can't even capture. You want to stand out. Be the man who doesn't just hear her voice, but makes her feel like it echoes in a space that belongs only to her. Because once she feels truly listened to, she'll never forget the sound of your silence. You wake up. No alarms from her, no good morning text lighting up your screen, no urgent need to impress or respond. Just you and your mission. You stretch, you get to work. Not because someone told you to, but because there's something inside you that refuses to be average. That's the beginning of becoming irresistible. Most men don't lack charm, they lack direction. They build their entire emotional ecosystem around a woman and then wonder why she starts to pull away. It's because she doesn't want to be your world. She wants to be invited into one that already exists. Philosophers still debate whether love should orbit around purpose or the other way around. But women, especially emotionally mature ones, have already made the decision. They want to follow a man who's already moving, not one who needs her as a GPS. You ever see a guy who drops his plans because she's free now? Or the one who replies within 3 seconds every time? Like he's just been waiting in emotional purgatory? That's not devotion. That's desperation with a romantic filter. Here's the thing, she doesn't want to compete with your purpose. She wants to respect it, but she can't respect what doesn't exist. Purpose isn't just about career or money. It's about having a mission that outranks your need for instant gratification. It's building a life that matters even if no one's clapping yet. You ever notice that the guy who's grinding in shape, building a business, learning a new skill, waking up early doesn't chase? His time is currency. His focus is limited. When he gives you a piece of either, it means something. Let me drop a real world reference here. Think of Kobe Bryant. The Mamba mentality wasn't just about basketball. It was about obsession, drive, discipline. You couldn't distract him with nonsense because he was already married to his mission. And that's what made people even outside the sport admire him. Now imagine you bring even 10% of that energy into your everyday life. You'd become the man who texts back when he's ready, not when he's bored. The man who sees women as companions, not lifelines. The man who says, I'd love to see you, but never, I need you to feel whole. Here's a quirky observation. The more available you are, the less valuable your time becomes. It's a harsh truth, but emotional economics is real, and women are intuitive investors. If she senses your whole day bends around her, she'll subconsciously start wondering why. Because when you lead with purpose, you lead with power. Not control, not dominance, but calm direction. You're not a leaf in the wind, you're the one charting the course. And when she sees that you won't trade your future for fleeting validation, something inside her shifts. Respect turns into intrigue. Intrigue turns into desire. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you are hard to distract. Purpose is the soil from which all your traits grow: confidence, discipline, restraint, peace. And without it, no amount of game or charisma will hold. So stop asking how to make her like you. Start asking, what am I building that's worth inviting her into? Because when you live with purpose, you stop chasing approval and start attracting devotion. You're on a second date. She asks a personal question, not invasive, but deep. Something about your past, and you smile. Not with smugness, but with poise. You say, that's a long story, I'll tell you one day. Then you change the subject gently, not because you're hiding, but because you know how to pace a story. That pause, that withholding, that's mystery. And mystery is what keeps her thinking about you long after the night ends. Most men overshare. They dump their trauma like it's confetti. They recite their life story like it's a resume. By date 3, she knows your childhood wounds, your ex's zodiac sign, and the way you cried during the notebook. And while vulnerability has its place, dumping everything up front is not mystery. It's emotional clearance sale. Philosophers still debate whether intimacy comes from openness or restraint. But in real-life dynamics, attraction often lives in the space between what's said and what's saved for later. The pause, the gap, the delay. That's where intrigue grows. Mystery isn't about being distant or emotionally unavailable. It's about being layered. It's knowing your story is valuable and treating it like it is. You wouldn't hand a stranger the keys to your apartment, right? So why hand someone full access to your inner world in the first 72 hours? Here's a quirky observation: people chase closure when they've been given too much too fast. It's ironic. You'd think knowing more would build connection, but it often just kills suspense. Curiosity is oxygen for emotional chemistry. Think about James Bond, classic mysterious man. We know he's dangerous. We know there's pain behind the suits and smirks, but we never get the full download. And that not knowing keeps audiences and women hooked. Now, no one's asking you to be a secret agent, but maybe don't text her your entire life philosophy at 2:13 a.m. Let her ask, let her wonder, let her lean in. And when you do share, do it with intention. Share a detail that leads somewhere. A story that creates texture, not a trauma dump that leaves her emotionally bloated. You don't owe every explanation. You owe clarity in action. You show who you are by how you move, how you speak, how you say no without a 400-word essay. That restraint. It's a kind of discipline. And discipline is always attractive. Real world example. Look at Anthony Bourdain, rugged, smart, emotionally complex. He didn't flood you with his life. He let it unfold slowly across seasons, meals, and monologues. And the world followed hungry for more. Women aren't drawn to men they can figure out in 10 minutes. They're drawn to mystery rhythm unfolding. When you give her everything up front, you remove the journey, and the journey is the seduction. Here's the trick: don't use mystery to manipulate, use it to honor your depth, speak when it matters, hold when it doesn't. Let her earn what's real, and you'll become the man she thinks about at 2 a.m., wondering, who is he really? Because when a woman senses there's more beneath the surface, she doesn't walk away, she dives deeper. She walks in with the day on her shoulders. You can see it in her eyes and her breath and the way she drops her bag like it betrayed her. She's been navigating storms all day. The last thing she needs now is more thunder. So what do? You stay calm. You don't ask 20 questions. You don't take it personally. You don't try to fix it. You just become the calm, the quiet center in a spinning world. That right there is emotional safety. And it's the most underrated, most magnetic trait a man can carry. Philosophers still debate whether love is about connection or containment, but most women know the answer by instinct. Love that feels safe, steady, and grounding is the only kind that lasts. You see, being a protector isn't about muscles or threats. It's about being the kind of man whose energy reduces her stress, not amplifies it. It's about how you don't react when she's flustered, how you breathe deeper when she talks faster, how you don't take her storm as a personal attack. A quirky observation: most men think they're being strong when they stand up to her emotions. But strength isn't matching her fire with fire. It's being the non-flammable presence that absorbs heat without burning the house down. Real-world reference: watch Barack Obama when people try to rattle him during interviews. No matter the heat, he doesn't bite. He pauses. He reflects. He recalibrates. That calm presence isn't passivity. It's leadership. And in a relationship, emotional leadership means this: you don't drown in her chaos, you help her float. Here's something wild: when you react emotionally, every time she's upset, you stop feeling like a safe man. You start feeling like another weight she has to carry, another emotion she has to manage. That's exhausting. She doesn't want to raise you. She doesn't want to parent your reactions. She wants to exhale with you. And when she does, everything shifts. Her voice softens. Her body relaxes. Her trust expands. Because now she knows that you can handle her real, not just her pretty. You want to be unforgettable to a woman? Don't just touch her body. Be the one who holds her energy without trembling, without complaining, without making it about you. Let her cry without rushing her. Let her vent without correcting her. Let her spin and just be the anchor that doesn't move. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe with you, something ancient and soft wakes up inside her. The walls come down. The mask comes off. And what she gives you next, no charm or game could ever earn. She gives you the part of her that no one else sees. And once she does, she won't want to go back to anyone who made her feel like too much. Be the quiet place. Be the deep breath. Be the man who doesn't flinch at her full spectrum. Because when she realizes that your calm is stronger than her chaos, she will stop testing and start trusting.